Fasten your seatbelts for the realest Eagles and Sixers YouTuber! One who plays no clickbait and gets to the point! The myth, the legend, Nicky Stees! Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. I'm simply statue, think, and slate, dropping unrealistic man, 2K takes for the clip. Even though cats like that get views closer to the milli, never hear me preach, look on to Philly. Before you watch the Eagles all the way through the early 22, authentic talk, forget what others do. Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. The 24/7, 365 way. Sports content for the reals to fill the day. Good afternoon, folks. It is Tuesday, the first Tuesday of 2026, and it's the first episode of the 3-Point Blitz for the new year. And as always, we're doing this live on the Nicky Stees channel and the Hardcore Sports Network. And for those wondering why I have a Sixers cap on instead of the 3-Point Blitz hat, that's because we're going to start this thing off a little bit differently this time around. We're still going to do the rant of the week. We're still going to talk about everything else. But if you guys saw on my IG Nicky Stees page or on my Twitter page, you saw that I said I was going to talk about the 76ers game last night that I attended in person. I did a few YouTube shorts on it. I did one showing a few pictures from it. Then I did one giving my quick thoughts leaving the Xfinity Mobile Center, formerly the Wells Fargo Center. Wow, it's crazy, man. I've been on here that long now doing this that I've seen an arena name change. So, yes, sir. But real quickly, before we get to the rant of the week doing the usual 3-Point Blitz format, I'm going to talk about my experience attending the game a little bit. Then we're going to go to the rant of the week, kind of do a quicker recap of the NFL games from Week 18 because there wasn't really a lot of significant games except for a few of them. So then I'm going to dedicate more time to talking about the wild card round. So that's going to be the formula here for this one. So we're still going to do, so instead of kicking this off with the rant of the week, we're going to kick this off talking about my experience attending the 76ers Nuggets game real quickly. So last night I had the privilege of going to the Xfinity Mobile Arena, formerly Wells Fargo Center, to attend the 76ers versus Denver Nuggets regular season game. Now, it turns out this ended up being an interesting game because you had the Denver Nuggets defeated the 76ers by a score of 125-124 in overtime. Now, obviously, as a Sixers fan, not the outcome we're necessarily looking for, but hey, it's one regular season game, to be fair. Sixers are still 5th place in the Eastern Conference, so, and you still got Maxey and Edgecombe are looking pretty solid. And the good thing was actually Embiid over the past week has actually been playing good in the lineup. So that goes to show you that when healthy, Joel Embiid can still make a difference for the 76ers. And for the fans, some Sixers fans are probably, you're going to get two perspectives. The one perspective of, oh, how could we not beat a Jokic-less Nuggets? They didn't even play Jokic. How do you lose that game at home? And that is a little bit embarrassing. But there's also the perspective of, look, the Denver Nuggets are a good team. They're still fourth in the Western Conference with a 24-12 record, which goes to show you how competitive that conference is, that they're 24-12 and only in fourth place in their conference. But at the same time, I can give the Denver Nuggets credit too. They went into this game against a team who's been getting hot recently in the Eastern Conference, who had all their main starters playing, had Embiid, had Maxey, Edgecombe, Paul George, all played. And they all got minutes. And all started, but the Nuggets went in there without their superstar, Nikola Jokic, on the road in Philly in a different time zone and managed to beat the Sixers. At the same time, I got to give the Denver Nuggets credit too. So I can't be too upset about the loss, because at least now if the Sixers would have got blown out by the Jokic-less Nuggets with all those guys, Maxey, Embiid, George, and all those guys playing, then I would have been upset about the way they lost. But I can't even be upset about, because they still played a good game. And I give the Nuggets props. Jalen Pickett led the way with 29 points. You had Peyton Watson had 24. Even Bruce Brown had 19 in that game. Hunter Tyson had 14. So the Nuggets still went out there and played even without Nikola Jokic. You even had Zeke Naji had 21 points, which goes to show you the Denver Nuggets have talent outside Nikola Jokic. Even without him in the lineup, they're still a talented team. So I can't even be mad at the Denver Nuggets. For the Sixers, the biggest thing that did them in this game was missed shots, particularly late in the fourth quarter when the game was close, and particularly in that 5-minute overtime period where they had numerous opportunities to put the game away. They struggled to convert from the field. They only had 46% of their shots from the field, 46 makes out of 98. They were 17 for 45, only 36, about 38% from three. That was the big difference that did them in this game. So the Sixers had too many missed threes and too many missed shots, that if they would have made some of those threes and some of those shots, they could have won this game in regulation. But really, it's just one regular season game, and it's something to learn from. You just got to convert on your opportunities more, and that's the one thing the Sixers didn't do. But at the same time, like I said, to be fair, the Denver Nuggets did come in, play. They did their thing and won this game, so I'll give them props on that. Just going to show like a real quick clip of me. Every team has nights like this. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously our coup. I mean, I'll say this. I'm actually would prefer the Sixers losing to the Nuggets without Jokic in a close game than what happened to your team last night. No offense, man. Because losing to the Hornets by blowout, I think we both agree that wasn't the Thunder's best night. But the good news is you're still the defending champs and you're still one of the top teams out west. So I believe you'll put it behind you and move on. But it's the first week of 2026. So it's still kind of early, mid-regular season game. So it's not that significant yet. But overall at the Wells Fargo Center, the Xfinity Mobile Center, it was a fun experience, though. Just getting to go see the game in person. The parking lot was located in between the Xfinity Mobile and the Lincoln Financial Fields. I got to see both of them. They got a view of Citizens Bank Park as well from where it was parked. So that was nice. It was a fun experience at the game. I even did a YouTube short about it. Still in a few clips and some videos of it, though. So that's on my channel if you guys want to check that out. And I did make a really quick video on the way out. Well, just as I was leaving the seats, I'll share that with you guys real quick. Oh, well, it's over. I mean, it was a good game. Sixers, Nuggets went to the limit. 125, 124 overtime. goaltending call against Embiid, but the main thing was too many missed shots, too many missed threes played a role in it. But at the same time, I got to give the Denver Nuggets credit. They came in the play, they won without their star player, Nikola Jokic. So I still got to give the Nuggets props on a good game too, and I'll leave it at that. It was a fun experience coming out to see the game. So yeah, but I'll be back tomorrow doing my thing, 3-point Blitz at noon, and Pick'em's Playoff Edition with Agent Warrior X at 8 tomorrow. Have a great night, guys. I'll catch you later. All right, so that was one of my YouTube shorts from yesterday, man. But hey, all around, it's a lot different actually going to the game in person than it is. Man, I mean, the only thing, I kind of wished I'd seen more games. But the thing is with that, it's a longer commute. And with ticket prices nowadays, hey, I was just glad I had the opportunity to do it. I got the tickets from family for Christmas, so I took advantage of the opportunity, went and enjoyed the experience at the arena. There was a nice little dance show before the game that was actually entertaining. You had some people in there, new parkour right there. But overall, it was a fun experience. It was worth the traffic. It was worth the travel. But once I left the arena, actually traffic on the way back wasn't bad because it was late at night. It was an easy drive. But man, no, it was a fun experience. So I just wanted to share that real quickly. Now switching gears back to we're going to start this off with back to the usual rant of the week. Real quickly, we're going to talk about the Stefon Diggs situation. Now, granted, the wording is we don't know for sure that he's guilty of this. I do believe in guilty till proven innocent. But the accusation, though, is serious about this incident with Stefon Diggs and his personal chef. Supposedly, this happened early in December. Now, his personal chef was a female. Her name has not been identified, which makes sense to protect her, especially in the event that he is guilty. But supposedly the incident happened near Dedham, Massachusetts, if I'm pronouncing that correct. It was in December 2nd. There was an argument over pay, and the incident was reported on December 16th. She said that Diggs had struck her in this incident and tried to strangle her, which, if this is true, this is absolutely... Stefon Diggs needs to be locked up if this is true. But like I said, I do believe in guilty till proven innocent in all cases. So we're going to wait to see what happens. We'll see if there's more evidence that comes out, and we'll see where it goes from there before I reach a final verdict. But I will say this, though. In the event that this is true, you got to be able to control yourself in these situations, man. You have to be able to control yourself when you're dealing with an unpleasant dispute over something. You cannot be trying to throw your weight around, touch people, strangle them. Now, in the event, though, too, that this is false, I will say this. You should always document everything that happens when you're talking with someone. The best way to protect yourself in a he said, she said situation is always document every conversation you have, especially if it's via text message. Keep those text messages on file. Even take screenshots if you have to. Do what you can to document these incidents, so that way, if it does come up and there's a legal issue, you have some evidence to protect yourself. So that would be something I would recommend in the event that this is false. But in the event this is true, man, you cannot go around acting violent toward anybody that works for you, especially a personal chef that's trying to help you maintain this diet that suits your dietary needs. That's absolutely, if this is true, that was absolutely stupid on Stefon Diggs' part. But we still ultimately got to wait and see how this plays out. And another thing that annoys me about this, though, is when I looked it up, I decided to refresh my mind about an hour and a half ago before we went on, and I was typed in Stefon Diggs chef in Google to see, and the most recent news searches that came up are Cardi B says he's innocent. Cardi B says he's innocent. Cardi B says he's innocent. Personally, I really don't care what Cardi B thinks, all right? I don't need like 5 or 6 news articles. I just want a new article with an update on the story that provides proof of either guilt or innocence, so I can provide a take from there. I don't need necessarily the celebrities weighing in with their opinion because, newsflash, a lot of these celebrities weren't there when the incident happened. I just want facts of the incident from people involved or anyone that has some proof, either text message proof, video proof, if there was a hospital check-in afterward, proof of medical records that confirms you did visit the hospital, something that actually proves whether this incident is happened or happened a different way than reported. That's what I need. Just something that actually provides me proof of whether this is true or not. So I'll talk about that more then, but just want to say this. Either way, could look at it from one of two ways. Either be smart when dealing with people over anything. Do not do something stupid. Do not commit a foolish crime. Either that or take notes when dealing with a potential conflict or potential argument. Always take notes, either screenshots of messages, something, in case somebody brings up a false version of the story to cover yourself and get your name cleared of wrongdoing. Either or, depending on the situation. But that's that. So that's the rant of the week. Now, before we get into the games itself, we're actually going to talk about Black Monday a little bit. Because I think, honestly, I'm going to mostly breeze through the games. Mostly the game I'm going to talk about the most is the Seahawks 49ers game. We're going to kind of do a quick discussion. We're going to talk about that. Other than that, mostly going to breeze through the games. So let's dive into the Black Monday discussion. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yesterday was Black Monday for the National Football League, where we saw several coaches fired, and we saw one team made a controversial decision to keep a coach, which I don't agree with. I'll get to that in a second. But let's start off with the coaches itself. Let me share the screen with you guys. Share some of these screenshots. Let's start off with Raheem Morris. I remember even a few weeks ago, Coach Ed Glenn, he came in here in the chat. He called this. The biggest thing with Raheem Morris was a ton of what ifs during his tenure with the Falcons. A ton of what ifs. A lot of, particularly over the past 2 seasons, there was a lot of close losses that played, especially last season when they had a shot at winning the NFC South. They swept the Buccaneers, who did win the division last year, but there was a lot of other games that were close. They couldn't close the deal on, such as the Commanders game late in the season. And then this year they lost twice to the Panthers, close games that had they won those games, or even they could have possibly won the NFC South and been hosting a home playoff game for the first time since 2016 season. But they lost those games. They had a few other games that they probably could have won, but they didn't. And ultimately, they finished the season on a bit of a winning streak, too little, too late. And I remember even last week on Monday night, Troy Aikman said it was a big season of what ifs. I think that's why the Falcons pretty much said, look, man, I think now maybe to some degree they were looking for a scapegoat, yes, but they did also, to be fair, he wasn't the only one parted. The GM went as well, which makes sense because they botched the Michael Penix Jr. pick. Now they're stuck with the repercussions of it. First, they signed Kirk Cousins to a contract in the 24 offseason. Then they go and draft Penix, who had a questionable injury history entering the pros, which made him a huge risky prospect. And then seeing how that's played out the last couple seasons, the switch from Cousins to Penix late in the season, when their season was still on the line, instead of maybe waiting till the start of the 25 season to go with Penix or starting Penix at the beginning of the season, they waited till later in the season to bring in an inexperienced rookie. That was strike one. And then this season, Penix gets hurt. Cousins takes over. They actually win more games with Cousins. So that looks bad on them because now you got a veteran who was on a contract year outperforming your second-year quarterback who you were hoping is the future of your franchise, who got injured and now his future is in doubt. Ultimately, this stems all the way back to the 2024 offseason. So both coach and GM ultimately deserve to get fired. Morris, I mean, He was at best a mediocre coach, but he could not close the deal on big games, so I get why the Falcons moved on from him. Moving on to the next one. This was a pretty obvious one right here. We kind of saw the writing on the wall. The Cleveland Browns head coach, Kevin Stefanski. I mean, to be fair, Stefanski was one of the better coaches the Browns have had since rejoining the NFL in 99, which isn't saying much, but he did have 2 playoff runs under his belt. But by 2025, he lost the locker room, and more specifically, it didn't seem like he was fully behind Shedeur Sanders as the starter. I think Stefanski leaned toward Dillon Gabriel, but based off what we saw late in the season, Browns are starting to lean more toward Shedeur than Dillon Gabriel based on the sample size both showed. Because Shedeur looked solid, not great, but he looked solid considering he's a rookie and considering he's in a bad team situation. It was a respectable performance for the circumstances. And it didn't seem like Stefanski really believed in Shedeur, which I think is the main reason they decided to part ways with him. They want to get a head coach that's going to rally behind their future quarterback that's actually going to try to help. Because we know the worst thing you could have is a quarterback and a coach not on the same page. See what happened years back with the Tennessee Titans with Jeff Fisher and Vince Young, where Jeff Fisher wasn't fully behind Vince Young, and you saw how that played a role in both the downfall of Vince Young's tenure and eventually Jeff Fisher's dismissal as the Titans coach. So they want to part ways, bring in a coach that's going to get behind Shedeur to at least have a chance of elevating and building the team around Shedeur for the future. Now, do I think Stefanski could potentially get another opportunity? Possibly, because he did have those 2 playoff runs with the Browns, most notably the 2020 run where they beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh. So it's possible Kevin Stefanski could get another opportunity for a different team. Maybe the Falcons, but I don't think so. It's just a possibility, though. Or maybe the Giants might be looking at him with their head coaching vacancy. But we'll have to see on that one. But I just think Kevin Stefanski was past his expiration date. He wasn't on page with the direction the Browns were going in. They just decided to part ways with him. So we'll see if Jimmy Haslam could finally get something right at the coaching hire. But then you have the next one. This one we kind of saw coming. This was just a bad hire from the beginning. I know Pete Carroll's resume says this was a great hire, but it was not. There were signs that Pete Carroll was losing touch late in his run in Seattle. And when you look at what happened this year, you can see that really with Seattle, Pete Carroll it was more so Pete Carroll losing touch because they brought in a fresh coach, fresh mindset, and all of a sudden Seattle's got home field advantage in the NFC, which we'll talk about in a little bit. If anything, looking back, it was the talent that led the Seahawks to those 9-win seasons, those last couple of years of Pete Carroll's tenure in Seattle. And then he goes over to the Raiders, tries to bring in Geno Smith, hoping to recapture that 2022 magic without realizing, well, Seahawks had a much better team all around than the Raiders. Yeah, the Raiders don't really have much to work with except Brock Bowers and then Max Crosby on defense. Ashton Genty looks like he could be a decent back, especially if that offensive line can actually be good. But outside of that, that team's got nothing going for it. And there's a reason they were the Tank Bowl champions. Really, this goes back to the last 2 drafts, 2025 and 2024. They had a shot at going for a quarterback. They could have very easily gotten a quarterback in last year's draft, or even in 2024, they could have. Now, in hindsight, this wouldn't have been the best move, but at the time would have made a ton of sense. They could have been the ones to trade up for J.J. McCarthy. Now, granted, it's not looking like a great move now, but it would have made a ton of sense at the time, at least, for the Raiders to trade up, at least get somebody that had potential for the future. Because even if they did take J.J. McCarthy with the red flags now, at least I could say they tried. but they botched that. Now they get the number 1 pick. Now maybe the the Raiders will finally get it through their heads that you got to draft a quarterback. And as far as Pete Carroll goes, look, man, you had a great run at USC. Even your second go in the NFL at the Seahawks. That was a great run, but Pete Carroll's past his expiration date as a coach. It's time for him to move on. He's at that Belichick point of, you had a great run, but it's time to move on. Best of luck to you in your future endeavors. And that's all I'm really going to say about it. Then we do get the next one. This one we kind of saw coming. Mr. Jonathan Gannon from the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, I don't have the graphic up at the moment, but Jonathan Gannon, let's face it, we kind of felt that was, even as Eagles fans, we weren't thinking that was a good hire. Some people were fooled by the Eagles' 2022 run to the Super Bowl with Jonathan Gannon, but we felt that was more so with the talent than it was Gannon himself. You see what's going on this year with the last 2 years, Vic Fangio. You see that Fangio was clearly the better defensive coordinator than Jonathan Gannon, and you saw his tenure with the Cardinals as a coach. He was dreadful. He was even worse than Cliff Kingsbury, let's be real. So that was a well-deserved firing, and you've heard to realize maybe Kyler Murray wasn't the real problem with the Cardinals. I mean, to some degree, yes, but not the main problem. But then you had, so those were well-deserved fires. But then you had the Cincinnati Bengals keeping Zach Taylor. It looks like Marvin Lewis all over again with the Bengals. Remember, Marvin Lewis was pretty mediocre as a coach, but the Bengals insisted on bringing him back until finally the 2018 Black Monday, New Year's 30th or New Year's Eve, whatever it was. I think it was New Year's Eve. They got rid of him and were like, wow. But yeah, that was beyond a shadow of a doubt. The Bengals, like, they learned nothing from Marvin Lewis by saying they're going to stick with Zach Taylor. I mean, I understand they had a Super Bowl run with him a few years back, but the more you look back on it, that was more Joe Burrow magic, I think, than it was Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor, to me, at best, is a mediocre coach, almost basically the white Marvin Lewis. I mean, it's a shame, though, but that's what happens when you have incompetent organizations. And to me, it's the Bengals doing the same thing they did with Marvin Lewis, hoping for a different outcome. And we've seen enough throughout sports and throughout life in general to know that if you do the same thing over and over, you're not going to get a different outcome. To me, I feel like the Bengals are just going to continue to be mediocre at best. But before we move on real quickly, let's just take a look at as of today, the 2026 NFL Draft picks through 116 order. That's as of today. Take a real quick look, then we'll move on to the games. So as of now, Raiders tank bowl champs, Jets number 2, the two teams that definitely need a quarterback. Cardinals, just get anything at this point to help build that team. Get an offensive lineman or something. Titans, try to go for a receiver or some offensive lineman to help build around Cam Ward. Giants, try to give Dart some protection. Browns, try to get someone on the offense to help Shador. Washington, you need to help bolster that defense. You need to get some younger players in there. Saints, try to build something around Tyler Show. Kansas City, just start really about anything at this point. Bengals, either get offensive line or someone on defense that can help. Dolphins, kind of interesting. Surprised Mike McDaniel survived Black Monday. Cowboys definitely got to go defense. Rams via the Falcons, could this be maybe where either they trade up or maybe try to get a quarterback to replace Stafford? Possibly. Ravens, I'll have to think about that more. But you got the Ravens, the Bucks, the Jets, second. That's via the Colts for the Sauce Gardner trade, the Lions, and Vikings. So that's picks 1 through 16 as of now. I could give a more in-depth analysis that later. But moving right along to the games now. So for this week, I'm not going to spend as much time going game by game. I'm just going to focus on the important ones and kind of skim through the rest of it so we can talk about the playoffs a little more. Start with this game. This was actually good comedy. Now, if you like some comedy with your sports, this is a good game that would fit that perspective. The Panthers lose a winnable game, a game that I had them picked to win, but still ends up winning the division. It's hilarious. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the fact that they won this game but couldn't win the division because the Falcons won, it's their karma. It's ultimately their karma for starting 6-2 and only going 8 and finishing 8-9. 6-2 start, 2-7 finish. It's their karma, ultimately. You won this game, but to be honest, the Panthers, despite losing, deserved it more because they actually played better in the later stretch of the season. Now, that's not saying a whole lot because they did lose to the Saints. They got blown out by the Seahawks, but they did beat the Rams in a regular season game. They did have a few other wins along the line. They beat the Cowboys in a good season. You had Rico Dowdle looked pretty solid at times. So Bryce Young actually played like a respectable game manager. Maybe not a real franchise quarterback, but he's at least more than a bust. So I think even despite losing, the Panthers did deserve the division more. And for the Panthers in this game, they did try to come back, but it was too little too late. They should have started a little bit earlier. So the Bucs win, but ultimately get the rightful humiliation of missing the playoffs. And Todd Bowles as of now, still sticking around another year. Now, some people will say injuries, and I'll put it this way. If the Bucs would have at least under Todd Bowles maybe made a run to the conference championship game or had maybe an 11-win season somewhere along that line, I would have maybe given Todd Bowles more benefit of the doubt. But when you get a bunch of 8 and 9-win seasons and win the division by default, I'm not giving you the benefit of the doubt. I got Damien. I don't think the Cardinals should have fired Gannon. Should give him another chance. But at the same time, I think that was really a bad hire, more so by the Cardinals, to hire a guy with no head coaching experience and bring him into a situation where the team had nothing to work with. At least they could have done a better job evaluating guys to potentially be a head coach. So I think that was more of a Jonathan. That was just more of a botch by the Cardinals and a bad hire in the first place. And yeah, their front office plays a role in it, but they should have done a better job reevaluating. They should have come up with someone that was a little more experienced and qualified for the job. So I ultimately blame the Cardinals for hiring a guy who had no head coaching experience and putting him in that role. Now, the part of setting him up to fail, that is partially true. But at the same time, the Cardinals should have realized, at least get a coach with some experience. So there was that too. But the Cardinals, they got a long way to go on that one. But then moving on, this and the Sunday night game were actually the most important games to me. Let's start with this one. Seahawks 49ers. I thought I got to give the Seahawks credit. Their defense, and I think this goes back to what I said about Pete Carroll, honestly, about him being over and past his expiration date as a coach. I say this, if Pete Carroll, I think the Seahawks, you see the Seahawks get rid of Pete Carroll. They get a new head coach, and now they get home field advantage in the NFC. That to me tells you I think Pete Carroll was past his expiration date. It was mostly the talent that was carrying the Seahawks to on the cusp of the playoffs the last couple of years. Now, you get a fresh coach in there. You go from Geno Smith to Sam Darnold, who I think is an upgrade. Now you see the Seahawks playing to their full potential, winning games. And we saw it here. This defense, they did their job. They shut down Christian McCaffrey to only 23 yards on 8 carries. Eagles, take notes because you're going to be playing this Niners team in the wild card round. And they got a pick on Brock Purdy. They kept the 49ers to only 3 points. The same 49ers that were on a roll that dropped over 40 on the Chicago Bears. This Seattle Seahawks defense shut them down. So we got to give them credit. I mean, and even Kenneth Walker had himself a really good game too. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, both excellent 1-2 duo at running back. Walker had 97, Charbonnet had 74. They both got pretty close to 200 on the day combined, and then you look at their defense, you still got a solid list of players, mix of young guys and veterans. You got guys like Nick Amawori, Devin Witherspoon. You got still DeMarcus Lawrence and Ernest Jones are still good veterans. You got Byron Murphy as a solid piece on that defense. They got some pretty decent pieces. Even Kobe with the C, Bryant, is another good piece on that defense. This is actually, dude, Seahawks are very underrated. And I give them credit to shut down a 49ers team that had all the momentum and gave us all the reason to believe they could win. So shout out to the Seahawks. Congrats on them. Enjoy that well-deserved week off. The offense could have capitalized in the red zone a little bit more, which Sam Darnold admitted in a post-game interview, but they did what they had to do as a team. They won this game. And now, so cry out to the Seahawks. But Eagles, don't be fooled. 49ers are still going to be a tough test. Jaguars, Titans, pretty self-explanatory. Jaguars built momentum for the playoffs, beating up on a pretty dead Titans team. I'm sorry, Cam Ward, but this wasn't it. Jaguars' excellent performance, took care of business, and they got the number 3 seed in the playoffs. Good for them. This next game, there's one big thing to talk about. Myles Garrett broke the record for most sacks in a single season by a defensive player. So congrats to Myles Garrett for reaching that historic milestone. Now, personally, I would love to see Myles Garrett get traded to a real team where he actually has a shot to contend instead of being stuck on the Browns. Because he's been a phenomenal. He's been the best player on their team really since 2017. He was there for that 0-16 season, and he's been there ever since. Now, I feel like a season like this may have solidified Myles Garrett's spot in the Hall of Fame, potentially one day, because he's already been one of the best rushers, pass rushers, and been one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL since he started. But now he's got the sack record on top of it, beating the record tied by T.J. Watt and Michael Strahan. Michael Strahan, who is in the Hall of Fame. Excellent. To me, this solidifies it. So congrats to Myles Garrett on a well-deserved accomplishment. Just at this point, I'd like to see him traded to a real team and just keep him away from Mason Rudolph's helmet. So for the Browns, they get a win here. And not really much to say for the teams outside of it, except congrats to Myles Garrett. This next game, this was just the nail in the coffin for the Colts. Phillip Rivers, I give him credit. He tried the comeback, but it was just one of those failed experiments. So I give him credit for having the courage to do it, but ultimately the Texans keep rolling. They build momentum. They get the 5 seed because the Jaguars win. But the Houston Texans, man, a great turnaround. It's a phenomenal turnaround for him. Excellent. And congratulations to the Texans on winning this game. And now they got the number 5 seed against the Steelers. I think that's a fair matchup. And Dame says he could see the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl. He doesn't trust Josh Allen. But hey, actually, I do say thanks for commenting and giving me your thoughts, because I actually did encourage everyone earlier, whether you're on the Hardcore Sports Network or Nikki Steve's channel, to comment which team you got winning the Super Bowl. So thank you, Dame, for commenting. And anyone coming in here, feel free, definitely comment. Let me know who you got winning the Super Bowl. Then we move on. Falcons, Saints. I said what I said earlier about the Falcons waiting until too late to win. And ultimately, they knocked the Bucs deservingly out of the playoffs. So congratulations on that. Giving the Tampa Bay Buccaneers their karma for collapsing. And kind of a filler game, really. So, I mean, not much else to say. So it had implications on the Panthers versus the Rams. Moving right along, Vikings, Packers. Come on, Packers. Seriously? What? See, this is why I don't have any faith in the Packers currently of winning and being contenders. It's like just when you think they have a shot, they pull this. Now, I know they didn't start their guys, and that played a role in it, but come on, Packers. I get it. You want to save your guys for the playoffs, but to do this, not even try and just surrender and set. But to be fair, they were probably stuck with that seed anyway. So I can't even, now I think about, I can't even be mad at them. I get it. Vikings win to close out the season. They played for pride. Good for them. And speaking of playing for pride, moving right along, the New York Giants beat the Dallas Cowboys. Now, was this better or worse for them? Time will tell, because they moved down in the draft. But sometimes history shows that may not be the worst thing in the world. I'll give you a historic example. The 2005 San Francisco 49ers beat the Houston Texans week 17, moved to the number 6 seed out of the top 5, but drafted Vernon Davis in that 2006 draft. So it may not always be the worst thing in the world. Time will tell if this is actually a good or bad thing for the Giants, but it is good in the short term for Jackson Dart and for morale for some of the guys coming back next year. The fact they get to go out there, get back-to-back wins, granted against struggling teams, against a Cowboys team that pretty much surrendered, but it's a win, a statement win. Dart had 2 touchdowns. Even Tyron Tracy Jr. had a good day, 103 yards. Of course, he waits till fantasy season's over for me to have a really good game, but that's neither here nor there. But the Giants get a win, and it's a good thing, too, because they gave the game ball out to, who was it again? Was it John? They gave the game ball out to John Mara afterward, who's going through his battle with cancer. And so all I'm going to say is John Mara kicked cancer's ass for us. And good for the Giants for acknowledging him after the game. But now we got to wait and see where they go from there. Rams, Cardinals, at least the Rams won this game. If they would have lost this game, then I would have no confidence in them entering the playoffs. But they did manage to win, and good for them to at least build some momentum for the playoffs. At least this makes me believe that the Rams can beat the Panthers. More on that later. Moving right along. Does this really even matter, honestly? Okay. Good news is the season's over for both teams. Moving right along. This game ended up being a pointless game since both teams rested their starters. All I'm going to say is this. To the Eagles fans that wanted Tanner McKee to take Jalen Hurts' spot, are you actually impressed enough by McKee? Do you really think he can be the starter? Because I believe if you keep the Eagles lineup the exact same, but put Hurts in McKee's spot, the Eagles win this game, even with their backups. So I'm not sold on that whole idea of Tanner McKee could be a starter from this game. Because if he really could, he would have done good enough to at least win this game. Eagles playing their backups enough because the Commanders really had nothing going either. So I'll leave it at that, man. I just say hopefully that gets people to realize that was a stupid in-the-moment point after that Eagles bad game against the Chargers. Patriots, Dolphins. Hey, momentum builder for the Patriots. Should be been the end for Mike McDaniel. Could still be. Moving right along. Lions, Bears. Well, the Lions, good for them. They get to close out their season, at least finish above 500. But it was still a disappointing season, regardless of the outcome of this game. Just absolutely dreadful in this one. I mean, the Bears, though, hey, they still got a home playoff game. They play the Packers. It's still a favorable game at Soldier Field. Talk about that more later. Broncos, Chargers, well, Chargers didn't even play their starters, so I can't even, it doesn't really matter. Broncos did what got the win. They get home field. Excellent for them. And I kind of felt bad for Trey Lance that he got thrusted into this game against the Broncos team playing for something. with nobody around him, because now this is going to start the narrative that the 49ers were right to give up on Trey Lance. And I thought Trey Lance should have at least gotten a little more time. So I did feel bad for him that he got the start in this situation. And congrats to the Denver Broncos for home field advantage. They get a much-needed rest week. And then this game, this is actually, there's a funny graphic I'm going to show you guys. This is really the biggest takeaway from this game. It's actually hysterical that this ended up happening with the New York Jets by the time the regular season was over. With a former defensive back as their head coach, mind you. Only team in NFL history without an interception. So here it is. Let me show you that one more time. 25-26 New York Jets, only team in NFL history without an interception. That's just the perfect embodiment of the recent history of the New York Jets. Not even one interception? Come on. I mean, the Bills were practically trying to help you do that by playing Mitchell Trubisky. And you couldn't even get one pick. I mean, I know that's technically not true, but I'm just being facetious. I mean, you couldn't even get one pick against a backup. Just one. LOL. We talked about the Cowboys and Bengals being all-time horrible defenses. The Jets might even be worse than them. I mean, it's pretty close because those defenses were bad, but the Jets, Jesus Christ, nothing. Now, this game actually did have some implications, and this was rightfully flexed to the Sunday night game. The Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Baltimore Ravens. Now, this actually felt like a game that actually mattered. That's actually worth talking about. This was easily the most interesting roller coaster ride type game throughout all the games this week, easily. You had the Ravens and Steelers. It came down to the wire in Pittsburgh. The Steelers were winning it into the fourth, but then the Ravens made it close, and they almost got the win, but the Ravens kicker decided to impersonate Scott Norwood and kick it wide right, thus leading to the Steelers getting a 2-point victory. Now, it's kind of a shame because Derrick Henry actually did his thing in this game. We talked about on the Sunday morning show that if the Ravens just run the ball with Henry, that could give them a shot at winning. And almost did, but Tyler Loop decided to, impersonate Scott Norwood and go wide right on the game-winning field goal. Oh, my goodness. So it's a shame, but I can't fully blame it, though, too, on just Tyler Loop. I'm not going to leave him as the scapegoat because ultimately the Ravens got swept by the Steelers. And you blew 2 fourth-quarter leads on your previous Sunday night games. Week 1 against Buffalo and against the Patriots 3 weeks ago. So at the same time, the Ravens can blame themselves for this. I'm not going to put this solely on Tyler Loop or this player. I'm not going to put the fumble in the Patriots game on Zay Flowers. It was the whole team. Inability to close games played a huge role in them losing. Look, Zay Flowers is one of the best. He's easily the best receiver they got going. He had 4 receptions, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 of Lamar's 3 touchdown passes. Devontae Walker was the other one. Now, to credit, Lamar Jackson did show up and play in this game. Now, he didn't have a vintage Lamar season, but then again, the whole team was off this season. So I'm not going to just solely blame it on Lamar. It was the whole team. But in this game, the Ravens did show up, and the Steelers showed up. Both teams played a really good game, but for the Ravens, just one of those, if they would have been more organized throughout the season, they probably could have avoided this scenario where they needed a game-winning field goal to win their division. If they would have held on to those leads against the Patriots and Bills, or even just one of those leads, they could have won. If they would have showed up more on offense the first go against the Steelers at home, they could have possibly won that game and avoided this scenario. So the Ravens kind of can blame themselves for this. Now, I guess the Ravens, they're going to debate whether Harbaugh's staying or not. I think personally they should move on. I know it's not easy for the Ravens to move on from your longest tenure coach, a coach that won you a Super Bowl, but if you look at recent history, I think Harbaugh's grown complacent. You kind of see it this year. And I think it would be time to move on, but at the same time, honestly, the Steelers are in the same boat. Mike Tomlin won a Super Bowl for them, but I think he's gotten a little complacent too in Pittsburgh. Yes, they've had all these seasons without a losing record, which is impressive, but what major success have they really had? Now, I know that sounds a little ridiculous to say about a team that just won their division, but at the same time, you look at like the last 5-6 years, what have the Steelers really done significant? This feels like deja vu all over again. And with Aaron Rodgers, who played better in a Steelers uniform than a Jets uniform. I'll give him credit. It was better for him to go to Pittsburgh and at least close it out that way because he's pretty much already indicated he's retiring at the end of the season. It's a good way to go out, have a little fun with it. Rodgers still had his moments where he flashed his brilliance. He had a nice touchdown pass. He had a few nice plays in this one. You had Kenneth Gainwell Kenneth Gainwell actually turned out to be a great option for the Steelers this season. So I get, TJ Watt's still balling out. That defense is still phenomenal, but they're going to need a long-term quarterback. Now, maybe Will Howard sitting behind Rodgers for 1 year might be the answer for them moving forward. Time will tell if that's the case or not. But in this case, though, hey, it worked out. You had Cam Hayward had 5 tackles in this one. Jalen Ramsey got in on the action. But the Steelers, this was just a really good game that came down to the wire. Both teams gave it their all. Congrats to the Steelers for the win and the sweep. And we just got to wait and see what they do versus the Texans, which should be an interesting matchup, especially if you're more of an old school fan of hard played, lower scoring games. That'll be a good game, which we'll get to that more in a minute. Real quick, biggest winners of Week 18, I'd say Seattle Seahawks, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Denver Broncos. The biggest losers of the week in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, for one. Then, of course, the New York Jets for going a whole season without one pick. And then the other biggest loser, obviously, the Baltimore Ravens. So with that being said, I'm just going to take a quick break, step aside for one moment. Then we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere because I'll be right back. We're going to talk about the wild card round. Stay tuned. Be back in a few minutes. Alrighty, folks, we're right back after a quick break. Now it's time to get into the main part of this show that I came here to talk about, and that is the NFL playoffs. That's right, the wild card round begins Saturday, and we're here to talk about it. So without any further ado, let's dive right into it. We're going to kick it off, start talk about the Saturday games for a little bit, go over them. Real quickly, you got the bracket here. You got right there, you see Rams and Panthers kick it off. And then you got Eagles 49. Then you got Packers and Bears. You got the Packers and Bears at 8 o'clock. And then on January 11th, you kick it off. 1 o'clock, Jaguars Bills over in Jacksonville. Eagles 49ers 4:30, and the nighttime game, NBC Peacock, Patriots Chargers. Then the Monday night game to close it out, Steelers and Texans, while the Broncos get the bye in the AFC, Seahawks in the NFC. So let's get right into it. We'll break it down discussing the Panthers and Rams. The NFC South, the division champion Carolina Panthers hosting the Los Angeles Rams, and when I saw this, I was a little bit shocked about the odds. -10 for the Rams. I was a bit surprised by that one. The Los Angeles Rams -10 points. I was like, okay. I was a little bit surprised by that one, honestly, because granted, I understand that the Rams are more experienced in this situation. They've been to the playoffs before. Yeah, this is the Panthers' first time there. Matthew Stafford won a Super Bowl with them his first year with the Rams. But to be fair, the Carolina Panthers did beat them in a regular season game at home. I think the -10 is a little bit overzealous. They could be trying to bait people into picking the upset and placing a bet for the Panthers. That could be what it is too. I wouldn't be surprised if the spread gets a little bit closer to game time and drops from -10, or maybe goes down to like maybe -4 or something, or -5 for the Rams. That is a possibility, maybe to try to bait people into taking the upset, to bait people into taking the potential higher earnings on a bet, maybe. But I still think, though, this is going to be more competitive than that. While I do see the Rams winning, mainly off the backs of the fact that they've been to the playoffs before, they at least know what this situation entails. Give me one. Yeah, they've at least been here before. They've been there. They know it. So I do think, even though the Panthers did beat them in the regular season, that defense got a couple picks on Stafford, mind you. I still believe that the Rams will win this one, and their experience in the playoffs will make them victorious. Particularly with Matthew Stafford, Coach McVay, they find a way to win. But I do believe the Panthers can make this competitive. And let's be fair, their defense has been pretty awesome right now. And remember, they got multiple, I think 3 picks on Stafford the last time they played them. And let's take a look real quick. Let's see. And the Carolina Panthers, let's see, turnovers. And to be fair, the Rams have gotten 11 turnovers during the season too. So the Rams have gotten a total of 26 takeaways this season. So Rams are still a pretty solid defense themselves. So don't be surprised if the Los Angeles Rams find a way to win. And then the Panthers had got 21 themselves. So both teams are actually pretty solid with takeaways. So and plus with Bryce Young, I've noticed, here's the thing. Bryce Young, when there's no pressure on, sometimes plays his best. But usually when the pressure's on, like it was the last 2 games, he doesn't play so great. Let's take a look at his stat log real quick. Let's see, game log. Let's take a look. We go look at
with investing options from Navy Federal Credit Union.
Look at recently. He did have 2 touchdowns and a pick, but look against the Seahawks, though. He had that interception. Even against the Saints, he was just kind of meh. So I don't know. I mean, they did in those games lose, and they did lose 3 of their last 4. Let's not forget that, too. And he threw 2 picks against the Niners. So Bryce Young could have the tendency to fold
with
in favorable situations. So
this new tent's amazing.
It was easy to pay off the low rates on their platinum card from Navy Federal Credit Union.
So I don't trust them in this situation. I don't really trust them in this situation. I think so. I got the Rams winning this game right here. I feel like the high pressure situation of a playoff game favors them over the Panthers, but not without a fight. I got the Rams winning this game by a score of 27-13. I could see it maybe being a little bit competitive early, but then as the game goes along, the Rams take advantage of them and wipe the floor with them. So I got the Rams winning that one, moving right along. And then we're going to switch it up. Let's go talk about, so I got the Rams winning the first game. Second game, Packers and Bears. Screw those cheese balls. 10.5 seems about right. Let's fade the pace of the Panthers team that shouldn't be in the playoffs. And yeah, well, really the NFC South, they shouldn't even be an NFC South team in the playoffs, but you got to give the division winner something. So I don't think. So it's like, yeah, I do think, but it's possible. But moving right along, though, back to night game, Packers and Bears. This could be an interesting matchup in this one. I do got, though, the Bears winning this one. Now, to be fair, these 2 teams did split during the regular season. But now with the Packers and Bears, after pretty much playing throwaway games for them in Week 18 by not playing their guys, now they're both playing their guys. They're coming back, ready to go. It's at Soldier Field, though, which gives the Bears the home field advantage. It's 32 degrees, supposedly, come game time, but that favors both teams anyway. They're used to playing up in the cold, by the Midwest-ish area, so they're used to it. But ultimately, I got the Bears winning this game because especially they've been the better team. We saw the Packers, and that was even before they just basically surrendered. Once Parsons went down on IR, they've kind of struggled in that later stretch of the season. Meanwhile, the Chicago Bears, even in that loss to the 49ers, they showed that they can compete with some of the top teams in the NFC. So I got the Bears winning this game. They're the more well-rounded team. Now, it'll be interesting to see what Caleb Williams does in this situation. It is his first playoff game, so how does he handle the bright lights of the playoffs? I mean, under Ben Johnson, he's had an excellent regular season, but come playoff time, could be a whole different story. Now, Jordan Love, to be fair, does have 2 playoff starts. They did have that upset over the Cowboys, but they don't have the privilege of going against Mike McCarthy-led team. You got Ben Johnson-led team in the playoffs. But I do believe the Bears will win this game. Because now, especially without Parsons being there, the Packers' defense is not at full strength. Well, the Bears' defense pretty much for the most part. I mean, the Bears defense, it's a little questionable. Kyler Gordon and then C.J. Gardner-Johnson's questionable. That's going to be a big one, though. And their defensive end, Joe Tyron Shonika, that's going to be questionable too. So, but then you also have the Packers. You have Javon Bullard and Bo Melton. They're questionable. And we know that no Micah Parsons. So, be interesting to see. But you still got Montez Sweat. Trey Edmonds is there. I like the Bear, but I do like the Bears' odds in this one. And don't get me wrong, this is not without a fight. I mean, Jordan Love's been in this situation before, but we saw last year against the Eagles come playoff time, we saw he struggled against that Vic Fangio-led defense. So we know when the pressure's on, Jordan Love doesn't have the greatest games in the world. So I got the Bears in this one. I get some people leaning toward the Packers because of their experience with Matt LaFleur in these games. But remember, they've also flamed out in the playoffs numerous times under Matt LaFleur, too. Ben Johnson gets the benefit of the doubt to some degree. We've never seen him in this situation. But either way, though, enough with the fluff about the coaches. This should be a solid game all around. I got Chicago Bears winning this game. I do think I could see this possibly being a 27-24 game, either the final play of regulation or in overtime. Bears win this in a close game, and they move on to the divisional round. But this should be a good game. Well, I got the Bears and Rams winning the respective Saturday games. Now we move on to Sunday. We got the two Sunday games. We start off Jaguars-Bills. Which this should be a fun game. Great way to start it off. The last time these two teams played was the 2017 season in the wild card round, but that was a boring game. This is much different. Both the Jaguars and Bills are much stronger teams than the versions of their franchise that played in the 2017 wild card round. This is clearly a much better all-around game. You got Josh Allen, the quarterback, of course, for the Buffalo Bills, face of the franchise. You got James Cook. A lot of people say that Josh Allen doesn't have much to work around him. Well, he's got Cook as his running back, so that's not true. Trevor Lawrence had the best season of his career under Liam Cohen, free from the Doug Peterson and Urban Meyer shackles. Now, he goes there. He's going against the Buffalo Bills in this one. This should be a good matchup, folks. And then you got, of course, Josh Hines Allen. Let's not forget him. 8 sacks leading the way. And you got Travis Etienne, who's having a pretty solid year. Jaguars are a much different unit under Liam Cohen going into this one. And they got the advantage of playing in the Florida weather, which is expected to be 66 come game time, which is a lot warmer than it would typically be in Buffalo. Let's say that. But as far as the matchup itself goes, and you see the Jags are the -1.5 favorites. A lot of people got Buffalo as favorites now that Patrick Mahomes isn't there, but I'll say this. I still think Buffalo's going to get hurt by the playoff jinx. I know they don't have to go against Mahomes this year, but that alone isn't enough. Now, I do feel like the Jaguars is the most winnable game of the stretch. Out of these two I could see the Bills winning this game, but I think this could be a good game either way, but I'm leaning toward the Buffalo Bills getting a closer win in this one. I think it will be a good game. I got Buffalo winning this one by a score of, say, 23-18. I could see this being, so I do think this could come down to the fourth quarter, but I feel like Buffalo's experience in these situations will help them pull out the win here. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Jaguars are a really good team. You see, you got Josh Hines-Allens. You got Old Kuhn. You got yourselves a really good game here. And let's talk about and the Jacksonville Jaguars, too. They're the third team leading in takeaways this season. So the Jaguars do have a really good defense, and they could force a few turnovers in this one. They've had 31 total, 22 picks. And knowing Josh Allen's history of throwing picks, I wouldn't be surprised in this one. But then again, I want to take a look at the Jaguars' schedule real quick because I want to see how they matched up against some of the better offenses. Let's take a look. You got, they struggled against Cincinnati. San Fran, it's kind of a shaky game. Seahawks, they got obliterated by the Rams, we remember. Even the Texans, they let the Texans come back. And the Broncos, they did. For Broncos, they beat. But at the same time, I also attribute that to, if you look at their schedule, to they've mostly had the benefit of playing against subpar offenses. So I'm not really that sold on. I think the stats are a little deceptive. I do think the Jaguars defense, those total takeaways, a little deceptive when you look at their teams they played. You've had teams like the Cardinals on there, teams like the Titans, the collapsing Colts, not the Colts that started off hot. So I do think that plays a role in them getting a ton of takeaways. Going against Buffalo, it's a much different story going against Josh Allen. So I could see them maybe getting an interception or two, maybe a fumble and a pick, but I still think Buffalo wins this game. I think their experience helps them in this wild card game. But either way, it should be an excellent matchup. Moving on now. This is the game I'm looking forward the most to for obvious reasons. It's my team, so of course I'm biased. Now, in this game, I'm surprised the odds are leaning toward the Eagles 56%, considering that their offense has played sloppy, especially against good teams. I don't know. I mean, even we saw against the Buff. Now, their defense has been phenomenal. And considering what the Seahawks did against the 49ers, I could see this playing out in their favor. The Eagles, but let's be real. Based off Kevin Patullo's play calling, which is reminiscent of a 5-year-old playing Madden, I don't trust the offense much. Don't let the yards and the stats on the screen fool you. And Devontae Smith, with all due respect to Devontae, he's had over 1,000-yard season. Shout out to him. But the fact that they used Devontae Smith more than A.J. Brown goes to show you that Kevin Patullo really screwed the pooch on that one. Really did. Because, I mean, I don't trust this offense. Now, you do have no Fred Warner. He's still out. And you got Tatum, Bethu is out as well. You also got Luke Gifford questionable and no Nick Bosa. I don't know. That could be an opportunity, though. But knowing how this Eagles offense has played, Kevin Patullo could easily find a way to screw it up. And that's what I'm worried about as a fan. I hope I'm wrong. But we'll just see. Now, the Eagles' best shot, though, winning this game, obviously their defense. If they can stop the run like the Seahawks did, that gives them a good shot. You saw what happened when the run was inefficient. Purdy was forced to pass. They couldn't score points. They only got 3 points total. And if you with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, with those two guys leading the way, stopping the run, I feel like if you can at least stop the run, oh, yeah, you got a good shot right there. If you use those two guys, your run stopper, stop Christian McCaffrey, that's going to make it harder for the 49ers offense to get moving. And I trust this Eagles defense to stop them. But the biggest thing is their offense. They can get moving, but I just think with Kevin Patullo, I don't like the odds. So I think this is probably going to be another low-scoring game and become the standard Philadelphia Eagles games we've come to know throughout 2025-26 season. I could very easily see that happening. I mean, do you think but it all depends on whether the Eagles can stop Christian McCaffrey, because McCaffrey's getting back to being the best player. You see, he leads the way in receiving yards and rushing yards. He's got 17 total touchdowns on the season. Healthy Christian McCaffrey gives this San Francisco 49ers team a chance. So it all comes down to, can they stop him like the Seahawks did? I do believe they can. I could see this either going one of two ways. I could see this being possibly a 17-13 Eagles win, or possibly something ends up 20-17 for the Niners, where the Eagles offense doesn't really move the ball much. Their defense is forced to carry the load, and then finally they get burnt out in the fourth quarter, and the Niners take advantage of them and possibly score a long game-winning drive late. I think it's going to come down to either one of those two factors right there in determining this outcome. Because this really could go either way, because the Niners are still a really good team who's been to the playoffs before. They've had deep playoff runs, and the Eagles have been to two of the last three Super Bowls to date. So really either team's got a shot here. So, but based off the fact the Eagles have been to two and won a Super Bowl, overall the talent I feel is better in big games, but the Niners, don't underestimate their ability either. I think this goes one of two ways. I could either see 2017 Niners or 17-13 Eagles. I think it's going to be one of those lower scoring games where it really boils down to whose team's offense can do more throughout the game. I think the offense that can move the ball a little bit better is going to end up being the team that ultimately wins this game. So could, like I said, it could go either one of two ways. So, but we got to wait and see. That should be a good matchup, though, either way. Now, moving right along, talk about the Patriots and Chargers. Patriots are minus 3.5-point favorites. Honestly, I like the Patriots' odds in this situation because, look, even though Justin Herbert, it's like, look, the Chargers are a good team, though. You see, they got a really good run game. They managed to take a running back who no one really heard of and have him fill in Omarion Hampton's shoes, be the lead runner. And the Chargers have a pretty solid defense, especially their secondary is one of the best defenses against the pass. But here's the factor. 37 degrees in Foxborough, you're forcing the Chargers to play it, who used to playing in a dome in Cali, out on the East. And Nick Sirianni should also get blamed. He's the head coach. He could take over the offensive play calling if he wanted to. Well, honestly, Nick Sirianni's play calling isn't really that much better either. Look at throughout Sirianni's history with the Eagles. 2022 season, they may have run to Super Bowl 57. That was Shane Steichen calling the shots. Super Bowl 59 season, that was Kellen Moore calling the shots. It's either Nick Sirianni or Kevin Patullo, who's pretty much been a right-hand man to Sirianni. I really don't, honestly, I don't trust either one of those guys. I mean, I don't trust Sirianni either. I mean, honestly, most of the offense is actually his influence. I think you just need a consistent play caller that actually knows how to call plays. And I'm sorry, Sirianni, he's the head coach, but he's not best at calling plays. He's best when he has an experienced person calling the plays for him, which Kevin Patullo is not. That was just a promotion out of loyalty, if anything, when he got promoted after Kellen Moore went to take the Saints job. So I think that both Sirianni and Kevin Patullo play a role in it. Because Sirianni is not the best play caller despite his record. It has more so to do when he has the right person calling plays around him. And back to this Chargers game, like I said, right over here, that's the factor. In Foxborough, likely to be 37, which favors the Patriots in big time in this one, especially going against a Chargers team that's used to playing out west in California in a dome. And they're not the most efficient team come playoff time either. We've seen this before, particularly throughout this decade from 2020 onward. The 2 times they've been to the playoffs, they fell off big time when they got there. First, the blown lead against Jacksonville, 2022, and then last year against the Texans in a game that I thought they were going to win. They basically wet the bed. Now you're going against the Mike Vrabel coach Patriots in Foxborough, which is already a tough place to play, but in the cold, I don't like the odds there for the Chargers. I got the Patriots winning this game. I think they could do so pretty decisively, so I'll take the Patriots to win this one by probably a score of, say, especially Drake May's MVP-like season. Whoo! And I got Drake May as the MVP at this point. I mean, right, throughout the...
As a member of Navy Federal Credit Union.
He's had, sorry about that, 31 TDs, 8 interceptions. Give me Drake. And he's had a phenomenal season carrying the way. Give me Drake May in this one, particularly since it's in Foxborough.
This new tent's amazing.
So I like their odds in this one. Sorry, Chargers, but you got to find ways to play better. You got to find ways to play better in those home playoff games. On to Monday Night Football, the Super Wild Card Weekend's closer in this one, folks. Houston Texans, Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this doesn't tell you the full story here on paper. The stats, it says that Rodgers had the better individual season. True. But then here's the big story. The Texans defense. That's where the big story comes in. And the momentum headed into this game. Because while Aaron Rodgers looks statistically better than CJ Stroud, it's not just the battle of the quarterbacks. We got to remember that. And secondly, you look at the way the Steelers played against the Browns 2 weeks ago. That was absolutely dreadful. Look at how they struggled throughout November, or look at the game against the Packers. Aaron Rodgers it's been a roller coaster season. He's like a light bulb. It's like when it's turned on, Rodgers can still produce something. Maybe not prime Rodgers, but he can still produce. But when the light bulb's off, he returns to Jets form. And I feel like in this game against that Houston Texans defense, this Houston Texans team who is on a roll, winning 8 straight, taking that momentum against Pittsburgh, who is the weakest division winner. I love this matchup for the Houston Texans. This should be an easy matchup for them, I think. Maybe not easy, but it's a favorable matchup. You got Hunter leading the way with sacks, Al-Shaair. You got the makings. And look at the Houston Texans defense. Yards allowed. They've allowed the least yards per average of all the NFL teams. Turnovers. Second in turnovers throughout all the season. I mean, this Houston Texans defense, people started to realize just how good they really were. A total of 29 takeaways, 19 interceptions, 10 forced fumbles. They were able to shut down Kansas City. Mahomes, make him throw multiple picks. They were able to as well stop Phillip Rivers and contain them. They actually take a look at their schedule a little more specifically. Like I said, they shut them down. They held the Rams despite losing that game to only 14 points when Matthew Stafford is a contender to MVP. Even the loss to Tampa, they only held them to 20 points. And even against Denver, they kept them pretty much to field goals. So even in their losses, they still showed good flashes on defense. And even against the Chargers, they held them to 16 points. Justin Herbert in that run game to just 16 points. In none of these cases, dude, I mean, the Houston Texans defense has been playing excellent. Even against the Colts, this was before Daniel Jones' injury. They held them to 16 points. And this defense has been playing excellent against some of the better teams. They held the 49ers to just 15. I mean, dude, I love their defense's chances against the Steelers in this one. And their offense isn't the greatest offense in the world, but you still got Nico Collins, who's a pretty underrated receiver who doesn't have the greatest stat line in the world, but when you give him the ball, he can make plays. And Texans still have some crook talent to work with there. Like I said, Nico Collins, pretty underrated receiver. So I still like what this team's chances in this game. Even though it's not great, like you've seen this season, 71 receptions, 6 touchdowns. Excellent all-around job here, but I'll say this, cut through the fluff. Let's get to the final point. In this matchup, I got the Texans winning this one. Give me the Texans to win this one by a score of 20-13. I could see the Steelers making a fight, but ultimately the Texans are the better team. And I think this will be the end of Aaron Rodgers' career. Because he did say it was going to be his final year going into it. But long story short, I got the Texans winning this game. Out of these games, I feel like the Eagles-Niner could be a toss-up. But honestly, let's be real. It's pretty much open come playoff time in terms of teams that could potentially win. I could see several teams possibly winning it. I mean, I could see possibly in the AFC, maybe the Broncos. I could see the Patriots. I could also maybe even a team like the Jaguars, maybe the Texans, or possibly the Bills having a chance. NFC, I could see the Seahawks, maybe the Niners because they have deep playoff runs in the past. They've been to 2 Super Bowls in the Kyle Shanahan era. Eagles on paper, they are the defending champs. They have a shot. Possibly the Bears. Those are the teams I could see, or even the Rams who've been there before, having a shot at least at making the Super Bowl. So it's pretty wide open come playoff time. Who could possibly win, who could lose. But we got to wait and see ultimately how it's going to happen. So I think that's all we got for you for now. We just got to wait and see how it plays out. Talk about this more in depth, but you'll also get the point of view of Agent Warrior X tonight on NFL Pick'em's Wild Card Edition at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the network. I'll be back. I'll reiterate some of my main points, and I'll also have Agent Warrior X's point of view, so you can check that out later. So to Arku, Damian, thanks for joining me in the chat. Hope you guys enjoyed this show. If you don't catch me later tonight on Pick'ems, have a great rest of your day. Until next time, it's your boy Nicky Stees signing off. Catch you later.